Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wright Flyer. As always, this is your captain, Randy Wright speaking, and I'd like to take this time to personally thank you for choosing to fly over the friendly airwaves with us here on our state-of-the-art radio program at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer. Well, folks, without any further ado, let's go ahead and delve into the topic for this program. If ever there was a time in this administration's history that it needed to take a step back and reflect upon just exactly what's going wrong with it, I would say that that time is right now. The Biden administration's polling and approval by the American people is plummeting by the minute, and it shows no signs of improving at any point in the foreseeable future. The reason for this is all of the numbers of missteps that the Biden administration has been making this entire time. Whether it's inflation, which is rampant, whether it's gas prices going through the roof, or losing in Afghanistan, or losing on the jab issue, or having things fall apart with his Build Back Better agenda and initiative, the Biden administration has been nothing but a slew of failures. And it has been completely disastrous. I think part of it is the American people recognized from the very beginning that Biden was being intellectually disingenuous when he claimed that he wanted to unite the country after a divisive 2020 election. And everybody wanted to see a little bit of healing because things had gotten so bizarre and gotten so far awry and out of the ordinary that it just seemed as though our nation was headed down a path that was destructive. And certainly when there were questions about the efficacy and the validity of the whole process, shall we say, people just were fed up with it. And look, the whole thing about Trump, I make no bones about it. I was never a big Trump fan. But I will give credit where credit's due, and he did a good job, by and large, especially with the economy, and he's certainly a lot better than this. Angry tweets? No, that shouldn't bother people to the extent that it did. What should bother people, and what is really bothering me, is how aloof and out of touch Biden is. He's demented, clearly demented. He does not have all of his mental faculties. And so I can understand why his staff and personnel are certainly worried about there being a communications gulf with the American people. Because communications is so important. It's the lifeline of any presidential administration and of any leadership of a nation, and in this case, it's really necessary because the guy was attempting to erect a cult of personality that never really got off the ground. The propaganda just isn't working. Despite this, the propaganda is everywhere. It's undeniably everywhere. The salivating legacy media has been going out of its way to try and cover for him because he's unable to do it for himself. And folks, think back to the election cycle itself. He was usually hidden away in his basement. He didn't want to go out in public, and that has also been one of the disastrous things about his administration and about the appearance of his administration. It's that he has spent most of his time in Delaware, more time than the previous two administrations combined. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you without any reservation, I remember everybody making fun of Obama. Hell, we even did it in our first year. And that's, gosh, it's hard to believe it's been that long that Obama was still in office when our first episode went off. But he was always golfing. He was the golfer-in-chief, the putt-putt-in-chief. And sure, Trump had his vacation moments too, but not like Biden. Biden has spent more time away. Now, I can already hear some of the people sitting there saying that, well, we need to protect him and that he had to have this because he's almost 80 years old. yes, he is almost 80 years old. And yes, that is a question that really needs to be addressed, even going into the 2024 presidential election cycle, because if it does shape up to be the one that it appears to be, that Trump's going to be running for a non-consecutive second term, he's going to be the age that Biden was when Biden won in 2020. Won, shall we say, in 2020. That really is saying something, because if you go back to the 80s, when Reagan was in, Reagan was at that time the oldest president we'd ever had. And there were concerns. In fact, there was that famous one with Dukakis where Reagan, using his classic wit and humor, flipped it on him. He would not use his rival's youth and inexperience against him. Classic Reagan. Classic Reagan. But it spoke to the fears and concerns that people had at the time. The same types of fears and concerns that are sort of rising to the surface now, because if the health and mental acuity, as well as the ability of the person seeking the office or holding the office, is in question, it puts the stability and security of the nation at risk as well. And so, yes, that is something that'll have to be addressed. Of course, it can easily be stated that we're living longer now, but that does not, per se, remove the threat or the fears or concerns. And the American people are right to be a little bit concerned about it, because we are wholly unstable right now. And things do not show any signs of improving within the foreseeable future. Everywhere we turn, things are going from bad to worse. And we've just finished the first year. Ooh, back itched. Sorry about that, folks. But we just finished the first year of Biden. We've got 3 more. If he survives them. So yes, I can understand where the Biden administration is coming in with this stuff of needing a new approach to have a message with the people. This comes to us out of Breitbart by Charlie Spearing. The White House is pursuing Joe Biden's communication reboot as polls collapse. The White House is planning a new communication strategy as President Joe Biden faces a total collapse of his approval ratings. Citing senior administration officials, NBC News reported Tuesday the White House is exploring new ways to communicate directly with the American people. Advisors expressed the need for Biden to talk to more people directly instead of one-dimensional speeches from the White House, the report revealed, citing his greatest political strength is empathy and an ability to connect with with ordinary Americans. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The ability of Biden to connect with the American people on an individual level, to be empathetic. This man is the most detached, most disconnected president we've had in living memory. This is a joke, and it's beyond disgraceful. Why would they say this? It tells me, more than anything, that Biden's one-dimensional speeches, which is all that he's ever been able to give, even going back to 2020 election cycle, is not working. It's not working with the American people because we see who he is and for what he is. And the greatest example of that is the F. Joe Biden chant that started, that then became Let's Go Brandon, which was all a rebuke of the legacy media's handling of all of his gaffe after gaffe and his unpopularity. It's a reflection of how there's nothing natural about him. And there's nothing about him which truly resonates with the American people or connects with the American people. But let's continue. Biden's approval numbers are only getting worse as he approaches the one-year anniversary in office. 50% of Americans in an CBS News/YouGov survey revealed said they were frustrated by the Biden presidency. 52% said Biden made the economy worse, and 58% said he made inflation worse. And yes, I do think that those are among the biggest concerns and the biggest problems that he's facing right now. They have, because these are, rather, the issues that impact all of our wallets. And since he's been in office, everything from gas to groceries to, electricity and all of those other commodities and utilities in our lives has skyrocketed. It is much more difficult to maintain a standard of living and the quality of living that the vast majority of Americans have gotten used to. And why is this the case? Well, it's because of his reckless and failed public policy positions. The left has always had disastrous public policy positions, and it plays out over and over and over again. But they fall into this feedback loop that just appears over and over again, in which they say, well, it didn't work right this last time because the right people weren't there to do it. It's the same argument that we hear time and again with respect to why communism didn't work. Well, we didn't have real communism because the true people didn't put it into position or into play. But what does that really mean? Nothing, ultimately, because the idea of communism doesn't work. Communism can't work. It's got a history, a long and well-established and well-deserved paper trail of blood everywhere, killing people, destroying things, because it's not something that can exist in a natural state. It's not like the natural law. It's not like our constitutional system. It's something that goes against the grain, something that goes against human nature. But anyway, back to Biden. It's just funny that these things are getting worse because it's just a reflection of everything that we said would happen. The survey, taken January 12th through the 14th among 2,095 U.S. adults, so these are small numbers, has a margin of error of plus or minus 2.5%. A Quinnipiac poll released last week showed Biden with only a 33% approval rating of his job performance. The poll sampled 1,313 adults nationwide from January 7th through the 10th with a margin of error of 2.7 percentage points. The White House has already tried to enact a more social media-focused strategy by pursuing appearances with influencers like Olivia Rodrigo, the Jonas Brothers, Benny Drama's Cooper the Intern's character, and YouTube stars including makeup artists and wild animal experts. Oh, geez. Wild animal experts. Why? Because wild animal experts know how to clean up after animals? Because apparently Joe Biden doesn't know how to clean up after himself? These types of things are just disastrous. And if they really think he's got a communications problem now, an old man attempting to appear hip and with it and in with the influencer and social media crowd is certainly not the way to go. It's just going to make him look even more aloof, make him look even further out of his element. And since he's obviously suffering from dementia, these things are all going to implode. They're all going to fail. But the Biden administration is desperate. They don't know what to do now. What can they do? They're sort of trapped. Some of these things were just disasters from the start. But anyway, the new communication strategy includes its own pitfalls, however, as Biden frequently gaffes and stumbles when speaking off script. Biden will host a press conference on Wednesday, the second formal formal solo press conference at the White House since he took office. Now that in and of itself is unprecedented. Biden is unable to speak to the press because even when they're softballing him, because they're very friendly to him, he's unable to handle it. And he shows all of the signs of dementia. Dementia, or people suffering from dementia, tend to get hostile when their perception of reality is questioned, or when they get frustrated with not knowing what's going on. And because a lot of times they're still lucid enough to recognize that something isn't right, and they know something isn't right, but they can't put their finger on it. It's very frustrating for them. And therefore, they tend to lash out, even at seemingly innocuous things. Biden has shown this. His prickly personality, when he basically challenged people to do push-up contests, or he called them dog-face pony soldier, that kind of crap, that was him lashing out. That was him having a conniption fit because he felt as though he wasn't in control. And let's face it, folks, he's not in control. How can he be? He doesn't have control of his mental faculties. He's not all there with it. And so this is exactly the reason why they feel they need to create a new strategy to connect with the American people. He's not connecting with the American people because he's not connected with himself. Think of that time of when he mistook his wife for his sister. I believe it was his sister, something down the lines of that. These aren't common gaffes. Another great example is when that NORAD call happened during Christmas, when the guy challenged him with the "Let's Go Brandon" thing, and he said, "I agree, let's go Brandon." He had no idea what was going on. So how can he show empathy when he doesn't even know what day it is, or who his wife is, or where he is? That's not the sort of thing that you can really make a connection with the American people with. And truth be told, I think he's already medicated up to the hilt here, and so they're not going to be able to make that connection either. These are the issues we're facing right now, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think we can make a prediction that it's, like everything else he's done, just going to be a disaster. Well, folks, with that said, I want to thank you again for choosing to fly the friendly airwaves with us here at The Wright Flyer. I hope to see you again next time. Please do take care.